In this video, we want to take a look at getting some practice working with decimals, fractions, and percents. So here are 3 questions. Take a moment, copy these 3 questions down, then pause the video, work out the answer to each question, and then resume the video, and you can see these solutions and explanations to each problem. Well, in this first one, we're asked to change 3/4 to a decimal and to write it as a percent. So first, to change a fraction to a decimal, we have to do our long division. So we're going to do 4 divided into 3. And we're going to put some placeholders here, put our decimal there. And we know that 4 does not go into 3 evenly because 3 is smaller than 4. So now we need to figure out how many whole times does 4 go into 30? And 4 goes into 30 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28, and we write that underneath, and then we subtract. 30 minus 28 is 2, and now we bring down our 0, and we get 20. Now how many times does 4 go into 20? 4 goes into 20 5 times, and now again, 5 times 4 is 20. We write it underneath and subtract, and we see here that we get a 0 remainder. So now we have 3/4 or 3/4 is equal to 0.75, and we can represent any number as a percentage by moving the decimal point over 2 spots and making the fraction having a denominator of 100, of course. 0.75 is equal to 75 over 100, and that's equal to 75%. So 3/4 is equal to 0.75, which is equal to 75 over 100, which is equal to 75%. In our second problem here, now we're going to add some math. We want to add 72% to 20% times 90. And you have to be a little careful here. I put this question in just to see that you know how to deal with percent. Well, first of all, we're going to have to do our order of operations first. So the first thing we're going to have to do is our multiplication here. So 20% times 90 is 20. And percent means over 100, so it's 20%, which is 20 over 100, times 90. And so we can do some good reducing here. We have 20 times 90. Well, here's a nice math trick for you. If you have to multiply 20 times 90, if you can multiply 2 times 9, 2 times 9 is 18, and then you've got 2 zeros. So 20 times 90 will be the same as 2 times 9, which is 18, and then you put 2 zeros on the end. So 20 times 90 is 1800, and now we have 1800 divided by 100. And 1800 divided by 100, we can cancel zeros, and that is equal to 18. So 20% times 90 is equal to 18. And 72% plus 18. So I'm going to write that here. And now we have to be careful, because what does 72% really mean? It really means 72 over 100, or 0.72. So we have 0.72 plus 18, and that will give me 18.72. You have to be careful here, because the tendency here is just to add 72 to 18 and come up with a final answer of 90, which of course would be incorrect, because it is 72%, which means 0.72. And in our last problem here, now we've got 2 things that we've got to do. We've got to take 20% or 20 times 14% and then add it to 15 times 10%. So now we've got to involve our order of operations here, and I can do each one of these separately. So 20 times 14 is going to be 4 times 0 is 0, 2 times 4 is 8, I add my placeholder. 1 times 0 is 0, and 1 times 2 is 2. I add down, and now there was 14%. 14% really, don't forget, 14% really means 0.14. So I really have 2 decimal places in my question, and so I need 2 decimal places, 1, 2, in my answer. So 20 times 14% is 2.8. And now I'm going to have to add that, and I'll do the same thing with this one. And 15 times 10%, and really 10% means 0.10. So I do my multiplication, and I've got 0 times 5 is 0, 0 times 1 is 0. I have to add a placeholder, lots of zeros here. 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 1 is 1. And I add down, and I get 0, 5, 1. 2 decimal places in my question from the 0.10. So 1, 2 decimal places in my answer, and 15 times 10% is 1.5. And now I have to deal with adding these 2 decimals, so 2.8 and 1.5. 8 plus 5 is 13. Remember to have all your decimals in a line when you're adding. 8 plus 5 is 13. Write down the 3, carry the 1. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus the carried 1 is 4. So the final answer for this problem is 4.3. So it's important to remember here that 14% really means 14 over 100, or 0.14. Those are equivalent. And 10% really means 10 over 100, or 0.10. So that gives you a little bit of practice with decimals and percentage.